In this episode, we're covering everything that you need to know about VeVe's new company update. What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to Collectors Gone Digital. My name is Josh, and on today's episode, we got the long-awaited, highly anticipated community update from VeVe. Hosted by MC, presented by the new co-CEO, Mr. Ben Rose. So we're going to cover all the key points. If you guys enjoy the episode, make sure to like and subscribe. And without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So for anyone who didn't have time to watch the full video, Ben starts off by talking about his initial experience at VeVe. He says that when you're a new CEO of a business, you want to have your ears open, you want to ask lots of questions, and pretty much form lots of thoughts on, how the business is operating, how strong the relationships are, stuff like that. Now, despite VeVe only being around for about 7 years, he says the company's moved quickly and done so much, so there's a history to have to learn, and understanding what has and hasn't worked in the past is very important. He says that a challenge of a CEO is that you end up a bit like a mushroom, where you're kept in the dark from certain things. So being the new guy, he's in a position where he can ask all the right questions, all the questions he needs. He says he's not just doing this with upper management, but with everybody in the business to understand what they like and don't like, and what's been working versus what hasn't. 2/3 of Ben's time will be spent internally with the team, while the remaining 1/3 with the community. But his take on VeVe right now is this. VeVe is a business that's been founder-led, and it's filled with passionate people, all who want to innovate and do great things for the community. He says they're at the stages in the business now where they need to add a bit more process and structure, and this is needed to help the team prioritize and focus on certain tasks. Now, when it comes to Ben's role with the team, apparently he's been listening in spaces for the past 6 months. He says a challenge the company's faced, and it's not unique to VeVe, is that they've taken on a lot of things because they're ambitious, they're pioneering. When the team's unclear about what the real focuses are, in some areas they end up under-delivering, and in some areas they end up over-delivering. The VeVeVerse being an example of this. Now, he says they're putting together a clear plan so that there's more of a solid roadmap on the things they're going to execute in the next 12 months. He also says 3 years and 5 years. The longer-term plans, however, are, in his word, fluid. So they're not guaranteed, not set in stone. And that's just because technology is always changing and what consumers want. He says that every single conversation he's had with any team member in any role in any location in the world, the community always seems to be the top comment for VeVe's strongest asset. And so with Ben being the new guy and the organization being very community driven, in his words, he says that this is exactly where you want to be. Now it's time to focus on how to get better at delivering and how to keep the passion to keep growing VeVe. So this is when Ben begins to explain the specific roles that David, Dan, and himself now have. He says that David and Dan have pretty much gotten the business to where it is today, but they're juggling everything as two people. And so he talks about how the role of a business owner will change as that business grows, something we've talked about on this channel as well. David and Dan started VeVe by going around in their car with their laptop and presenting a PowerPoint presentation to these brands, right? They would go back to their car and make changes to the PowerPoint presentation based on what happened in the meetings. Ben says that this is how 99% of startups start, where you have the business owners working to grow while simultaneously working to manage everything in that business. Now, when a business grows, like we've seen with VeVe, the responsibilities of those business owners are now going to change. So to make a longer story short, you go from managing and operating everything in the business to now hiring people to do that and you managing them. Now, VeVe's gone to a point where it's not even possible for David or Dan to not only manage everything or everyone in the business, but to even know about everything that's happening in the business at any given time. There's just too many moving parts. I was in one of 𝗖𝗵𝗵his's spaces recently, and we had the CEO of VeVe Korea talking about the approval process with different licensors. Now, this is just one example of a moving part in the business. We said signing the IP is one thing, but satisfying them is another. They talked about how the team can reach out to a brand who doesn't get back to them for weeks, but after waiting that amount of time, they might still request a change, and then you gotta rinse and repeat the process. He also said there's been situations where they've actually gotten approval, and a day or two before the drop, the brand comes back and goes, nope, change this. And so when you think about what that's like with one brand, but then extrapolate that across 200 plus other brands, there's a lot of work involved, and that's just one component of one department in the entire business. So summing up what Ben said, David is in charge of partnerships and IP. He has a very strong network, and so his job is to not only develop new relationships, but to maintain current ones they have. Dan is in charge of operations and development, so everything VeVeVerse and Collectible related. And then Ben is in charge of scaling, managing the team, so having the right people in the right roles, doing the right things. And then part of his role is also going to be getting involved with the community. Now he says bringing in a co-CEO has been part of David and Dan's plan since the beginning. VeVe is now at a point where it's important to do this. He uses the examples of Meta and Amazon, who brought in new executives to help scale the business to new levels. He says the best thing that founders can do better than anybody is they have the passion and belief. And so he really wants to ensure that VeVe keeps the right culture, setting goals, holding people accountable to these goals. He says that when you're a startup, you have a little bit more of that family feel, but when you grow, you become more corporate. VeVe does not want that corporate feel. Ben says they want team members who love working there, who believe that VeVe is where the world collects. And they also want people who are going to push the envelope, innovate, and come up with creative ideas. Now, he said that VeVe doesn't want that corporate culture, but in order to do this, there still needs to be a bit of a framework to provide guidance to the team, kind of like a light for a moth. So outlining expectations, what their day-to-day looks like, and exactly how they'll know that at the end of every quarter or year that they've smashed the role. So that's what Ben's going to be doing with the team. We did also mention he's going to be communicating with the community. He acknowledged that the community has wanted to hear more from the team, and he said that we actually do deserve that. Without the community, VeVe wouldn't be here. All I got to say about this is I really get the sense that he wants to hit the ground running, and he made the comment about how he's kind of listening in the background to gather what he needed. I really get the sense that this guy is about to go, so seeing a video like this with MC and him being the only one, by the way, presenting, in my opinion, this is a good sign. So Ben moves on to talk about his previous experience and why he joined VeVe. He says the roles he enjoyed the most, and he believed he did a good job in, are positions where there was a real business challenge or something that needed to be fixed or grown. So we've talked before about having to find the right puzzle pieces and then learning how to put the puzzle together. Long story short, Ben likes doing that. Now, the reason he joined VeVe is because he believes the business is posed to do great things in a massive space. It's something that can go global, and it's completely borderless. Now, Ben has former experience with the blockchain, keeping in mind he is coming from Binance. He says that what the blockchain does is it makes collecting real. And I really enjoyed this part because of how simple he made it. If it's a physical collectible, he says you have to rely on trust, that it's one of X originals. On the blockchain, and I quote, you don't have to trust, you can verify. He says he also enjoys how easy the platform is to use. A lot of people are not quite comfortable with seed phrases, self-custody wallets, stuff like that. And so he really likes how all you really need to do is put in your credit card and click buy now. Now, when it comes to VeVe's growth potential, he talks about a secret superpower that the company has, that being the passion of the fans. Now, when he says fans here, he's not talking about VeVe fans. He's talking about fans of all the brands on VeVe. Fans of Marvel have been fans of Marvel for a long time, and some of them have rooms of collectibles of all kinds. Well, VeVe offers another way for these collectors to keep collecting their favorite brands with added benefits. So Ben says that having the potential to appeal to all kinds of fans from different brands all over the world opens massive potential for the platform. Now, this is when Ben says some of the most bullish things in this update. He says that no one has the breadth that VeVe has, the reach in terms of brands. He says, don't think of this as year 7, think of this as day 1 and all of the other brands that are out there that people enjoy collecting. But he says that because you can tokenize and represent pretty much anything in digital format, What this pretty much means is that the several $100 billion industry, he says it's about to get disrupted, and it's about to get disrupted by VeVe. So where exactly is VeVe at right now? With regards to the VeVeVerse, Ben says it's been slower than it should have been, and I will second that. It was actually the first thing he wanted to discuss with David and Dan when he started to sit down and talk with them. He said that not only is it a real commitment they've made, but it's also going to be one of the most exciting things they're going to do. And thank you for acknowledging this. So the VeVeVerse is at the top of their priority list, which is nice to hear. They are working on tweaks to it, but they're not giving timelines because they have, learned from their mistakes in the past. They're a wiser and smarter business now, he says. But it will be delivered in the short-term future, whatever that means. And I loved hearing this part. Ben has also committed to sharing some visuals from behind the scenes, which we should expect to see soon. Now, where exactly is VeVe heading when it comes to utility? Well, as David has mentioned in the past, utility is step number 3. Step 1 is focusing on security. Security is what brings in the brands. Once the brands are here, they bring in the offerings. Step 3 is to add the use cases or utility to those offerings. And Ben says their first step to do this is with the VeVeVerse. I mentioned on stream that the VeVeVerse is a very large part of the future of VeVe. In terms of applications for collectibles, people will use it to build their brands, and that's just 2 on a very long list. So when they open those gates, we're going to go from limited utility with the Vault and AR to having several use cases inside a virtual environment. Now, he does also say there are other long-term plans for the collectibles. However, one of the challenges with tech is that it's always changing. And so functionalities emerged that the team never thought of. So right now they're focused on the short-term roadmap, but their long-term roadmap is, like we said before, fluid. So it's not set in stone yet. They are looking at new licenses, but the functionality of each collectible is dependent on what the licensor allows. Now, they quickly highlight his favorite collectible here. Ben is a big fan of Sesame Street. His favorite character is Bert. And so he showcased his cased Bert Funko. But he also says he has like a 35-year-old Bert from when he was a kid. They round things off talking about VeVe's growth potential. Ben says that VeVe's heart is pop culture and digital collectibles. So they're going to focus on strengthening the categories already on the platform. They're also looking to introduce new verticals, and he says the platform is stronger in certain countries than others. So they're also going to begin looking geographically at where to focus and build more. What are the brands that fans in these parts of the world love that VeVe might not have yet? Now, when it comes to user acquisition, VeVe judges their success based on daily active users. So to help increase that number, they're investing in marketing to help reach more people. Now, their goal with this is to make more people aware of digital collecting. And if they're already aware of digital collecting, then VeVe. Now, I had a question at this point on stream because I'm curious how they're going to go about this. Are they going to try and educate people on blockchain ownership and carbon neutral NFTs? Or are they going to focus on ease of use, storage, right? No wear and tear. Because I do think one is easier than the other. So VeVe already has the brands that collectors are into. They just might not have thought about collecting in a digital way. And so VeVe's job is to make themselves known to those people. Last but not least, we got New York Comic Con happening in about a week now, a little over. But Ben will not be in New York. He says that someone has to run the shop. He said, we're going all out this year. And apparently VeVe's got a big booth. When I heard him say this though, I was like, okay, they got to announce some big stuff this year in order to top what they did last year, because we had quite a bit happen last New York Comic Con. If you guys remember, we had the Funko announcement. We had the Christian Louis announcement. We had the first physical VeVe comic. We had the Addiction debut. So all we know that's coming so far is that David has confirmed a new Phygital collab. With what brand, we don't know. There is going to be a new VeVe comic cover this year as well. Gold and silver logo holders are eligible for collectible and comic redemptions. RSVPs for the party happening are going to be going out soon for ticket holders. And level 100 collectors are going to receive an exclusive case with something inside. We don't know what it is. They haven't announced it. In fact, I don't think they are going to. David just said keep an eye out for people posting it on social media. But my guess is it's going to be some sort of like high quality logo. It looks like the logo fits perfectly in the case, so that's my guess. But hearing Ben saying that we're going all out, I'm intrigued to see what they announce because they are making it sound like there's new brands. But for anyone going to New York, enjoy, safe travels. For those who aren't, keep an eye on social media. And VeVe, thank you very much for the long-awaited community update. Ladies and gents, that is going to conclude today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. That was a full recap of all the key points mentioned by Ben in VeVe's new community update. Now, I've had some pretty interesting topics come to mind after watching this video, so I am going to start working on those. But for anyone interested in what those might be, make sure to keep an eye on the channel. I should be releasing them soon. But if you enjoy the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in a future episode. And as for our next, I'll catch you then.